These are the final resting places of 40 famous silent film actresses whose faces filled movie houses from Omaha to Osaka before sound changed everything. Lillian Gish was buried at St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church Cemetery in New York after she died on February 27, 1993, at age 99 from natural causes. The Birth of a Nation and Broken Blossom star was the most celebrated actress of the silent era, her collaboration with director D.W. Griffith producing some of the most technically innovative films of the medium's earliest decade. Gish continued working as an actress into her 90s, her final appearance coming in the 1987 film The Whales of August, giving her one of the longest active screen careers in the history of the art form. Mary Pickford was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on May 29, 1979, at age 86 from a cerebral hemorrhage. The Canadian-born actress known as America's Sweetheart was the most commercially powerful woman in Hollywood history at the height of her fame, co-founding United Artists with Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith in 1919 to control her own output and profits. Pickford won the second Academy Award ever given for Best Actress for Coquette in 1930 and remained one of the most significant business figures the film industry has ever produced long after her acting career concluded. Gloria Swanson was buried at the Church of the Heavenly Rest in New York City after she died on April 4, 1983, at age 84 from heart failure. The silent era superstar, whose career was revived by Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard in 1950, had been one of the highest paid and most glamorous performers of the 1920s, her fashion choices and personal life generating the kind of celebrity attention that modern culture associates with tabloid media. Swanson spent her later years as a committed advocate for organic food and natural health, pursuing those interests with the same intensity she had once directed at accumulating professional success. Norma Talmadge was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on December 24, 1957, at age 73 from a stroke. The Camille and Smilin' Through star had been one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood throughout the late silent era, her production company generating millions, and her marriage to producer Joseph Schenck, placing her at the center of the industry's business structure. Talmadge was unable to make the transition to sound film successfully, a failure all the more striking given the commercial and artistic authority she had wielded only years before. Constance Talmadge was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on November 23, 1973, at age 68 from pneumonia. The younger sister of Norma Talmadge had appeared in D.W. Griffith's Intolerance in 1916, before building a career as a sophisticated comedy actress whose work in the 1920s drew consistent praise from critics who considered her timing among the sharpest in the business. Constance chose retirement over the attempt to transition to sound film, walking away from the industry entirely at the height of her earning power rather than risk public failure in the new medium. Mae Murray was buried at the Motion Picture Country Home Cemetery in Woodland Hills, California, after she died on March 23, 1965, at age 82 from natural causes. The Merry Widow star had been one of the most flamboyant personalities of the silent era, her screen presence and personal extravagance generating enormous press coverage throughout the 1920s. Mae Murray spent her final years in poverty and legal disputes that consumed the fortune she had accumulated, dying at the actor's retirement home in a trajectory from riches to destitution that became one of old Hollywood's most cited cautionary tales. Pola Negri was buried at Calvary Cemetery in San Antonio, Texas, after she died on August 1, 1987, at age 90 from pneumonia and a brain tumor. The Polish-born actress, who had been one of the most internationally celebrated silent film stars of the 1920s, settled in San Antonio during World War II and quietly outlived nearly every contemporary from the era that had made her famous. Her romance with Rudolph Valentino had been one of the defining celebrity stories of the decade, and she remained a sought-after interviewee on the subject of silent Hollywood well into her 80s. Clara Bow was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on September 26, 1965, at age 60 from a heart attack. The It Girl from Brooklyn had been the most popular actress in Hollywood at the peak of the silent era, her energy on screen generating a fan following that studio executives of later decades would struggle to comprehend, and she made a successful transition to sound that many contemporaries failed to manage. Bow spent her final decades in the Nevada desert with her husband Rex Bell, battling schizophrenia and insomnia throughout much of her adult life. Louise Brooks was buried at Holy Sepulchre Cemetery in Rochester, New York, after she died on August 8, 1985, at age 78, from a heart attack related to emphysema. The Pandora's Box actress who created one of the cinema's most enduring images with her black bob haircut worked primarily in Germany with director G. Pabst after American studios passed on her talents, producing films that were not recognized as masterpieces until decades after they were made. Brooks spent her final years writing film criticism and memoirs of remarkable intelligence and acidity, becoming in her old age the literary voice of a silent era most of its participants had left unrecorded. Theda Bara was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on April 7, 1955, at age 69 from abdominal cancer. The Cincinnati-born actress, whose studio manufactured an elaborate false biography describing her as the daughter of a French artist and an Arab princess, became Hollywood's first sex symbol through a series of vamp roles that shocked and thrilled audiences from 1915 onward. Nearly all of Bara's films were lost in a 1937 Fox studio fire, leaving her legend dependent almost entirely on still photographs and contemporary accounts rather than the moving images that had made her famous. Mabel Normand was buried at Calvary Cemetery in Los Angeles, California, after she died on February 23, 1930, at age 37 from tuberculosis complicated by pneumonia. The Keystone comedy star and Chaplin collaborator had been one of the most gifted physical comedians of the silent era. Her timing and invention on screen influencing Chaplin's own development during the years they worked together. Normand's career was derailed by two separate personal scandals in the early 1920s, despite her having had no direct involvement in either, a demonstration of how completely a studio system could destroy a career through association rather than culpability. Pearl White was buried at Passy Cemetery in Paris, France, after she died on August 4, 1938, at age 49, from liver disease and complications of alcoholism. The Perils of Pauline serial star had been one of the most popular performers in American film during the 1910s. Her cliff-hanging adventure serials, drawing the kind of weekly audiences that modern audiences would recognize as the forerunner of the serialized television drama. White spent her final years in Paris, having retired from acting and accumulated enough wealth to live comfortably in the city she loved, dying far from the industry that had made her name. Florence Lawrence was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on December 28, 1938, at age 52 from ingesting ant paste in what was ruled a suicide. The actress known as the first movie star had been the first performer identified by name in film promotions. Her transition from anonymous biograph girl to named celebrity, creating the very concept of the movie star that the industry has exploited ever since. Lawrence spent her final decade in severe poverty and declining health, her pioneering contributions to the medium entirely forgotten by an industry that had moved on without her. Evelyn Brent was buried at Inglewood Park Cemetery in Los Angeles, California, after she died on June 4, 1975, at age 68 from a heart attack. The underworld star had been one of the most sought-after leading ladies of the late silent era, her cool and self-possessed screen presence making her a natural fit for the crime and gangster films that emerged as a major genre in the late 1920s. Brent made a workable transition to sound film and continued working in supporting roles throughout the 1930s and 1940s, achieving a professional longevity that eluded many of her silent-era contemporaries. Bebe Daniels was cremated at Golders Green Crematorium in London after she died on March 16, 1971. At age 70 from a cerebral hemorrhage. The comedian and silent star who transitioned successfully to sound film spent the second half of her career in England alongside her husband Ben Lyon, where the couple became beloved figures in British entertainment through their long-running BBC radio program Life with the Lyons. Daniels and Lyon had stayed in London throughout the Blitz when many American performers departed, an act of solidarity with the British public that earned them an enduring affection that lasted the rest of their lives. Alla Nazimova was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on July 13, 1945, at age 69 from coronary thrombosis. The Russian-born actress and playwright had been one of the most artistically ambitious performers of the silent era, financing and producing her own films, including the extraordinary 1923 version of Salome, with an all-gay cast at a time when such a production required extraordinary personal courage. Nazimova lost her considerable fortune financing those artistic projects and spent her final years working steadily as a character actress in sound films, her talent undiminished by the commercial failures that had consumed her financial resources. Alma Rubens was buried at Rosedale Cemetery in Los Angeles, California, after she died on January 22, 1931, at age 33 from pneumonia following severe health complications stemming from morphine addiction. The showboat actress had been one of the more promising dramatic performers of the Middle Silent era, her talent recognized by directors who believed she was capable of sustaining a major career. Rubens was involuntarily committed in 1929 after her addiction became unmanageable and died 2 years later. Her life destroyed more by the failings of those around her than by anything that could be attributed to her alone. Barbara Lamar was buried at Calvary Cemetery in Los Angeles, California, after she died on January 30, 1926, at age 29 from tuberculosis, complicated by drug addiction and an extreme starvation diet, maintained to control her weight. The Spanish dancer star, known as the Girl Who Is Too Beautiful, had one of the most breathtaking physical presences on silent screens, her short career generating an intensity of fan devotion that her studios struggled to manage. Lamar's death at 29 ended a professional peak that lasted barely 4 years before her body gave out under the accumulated pressures the industry imposed. Olive Thomas was buried at Calvary Cemetery in Los Angeles, California, after she died on September 10, 1920, at age 25 from ingesting mercury bichloride tablets at the Hotel Ritz in Paris, where she and her husband, Jack Pickford, had been celebrating their honeymoon. The flapper actress had been considered one of the most beautiful women in American entertainment, and whether the ingestion was accidental or deliberate was never definitively established. Her death in Paris generated enormous international press coverage and became one of Hollywood's first major scandals involving the private lives of its stars. Virginia Rappe was buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, California, after she died on September 9, 1921, at age 26 from peritonitis, following a bladder rupture at a party hosted by Roscoe Arbuckle in San Francisco. The actress's death and Arbuckle's subsequent trial, he was eventually acquitted after 3 juries but had his career destroyed, led directly to the creation of the Hays Office Censorship Board that would govern American film content for decades. Rappe herself was largely reduced to a supporting role in the story of her own death by the media's focus on Arbuckle. Renee Adoree was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on October 5, 1933, at age 35 from tuberculosis. The French-born actress had appeared opposite John Gilbert in The Big Parade, one of the highest-grossing silent films ever made, in a performance that drew genuine emotional responses from audiences across the world. Adoree was diagnosed with tuberculosis while still making films and continued working as long as her health permitted, spending her final years in a Sunland sanitarium where she died with her career still valued, even though her ability to pursue it had long been taken from her. Priscilla Dean was cremated after she died on December 27, 1987, at age 96 from natural causes in Los Angeles, California. The Outside the Law star had been one of Universal Pictures' most popular leading ladies during the late silent era, specializing in crime dramas and action films in which her athletic physicality allowed her to perform stunts that her contemporaries typically declined. Dean retired from acting after the transition to sound film and lived for decades in California, one of the longest-lived performers from the silent era and one of the few who survived to see scholarly interest in that period revive in the 1970s and 1980s. Anna Q. Nilsson was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on February 11, 1974, at age 85 from a stroke. The Swedish-born actress who made her final appearance in Sunset Boulevard in 1950 had been one of the most prolific leading ladies of the 1910s and early 1920s, before a serious writing accident interrupted her career and the arrival of sound made continuation difficult. Nilsson gave interviews in her final years that provided invaluable first-hand accounts of how the silent era had actually operated, testimony that film historians have drawn on ever since. Hedda Hopper was buried at Rose Hills Memorial Park in Whittier, California, after she died on February 1, 1966, at age 80 from double pneumonia. The actress, who spent the second half of her career as Hollywood's most feared gossip columnist, had appeared in dozens of silent films before reinventing herself as a journalist whose command of celebrity information gave her a form of power she had never possessed as a performer. Hopper's feuds, her role in the blacklisting era, and her absolute control of the studio image ecosystem made her one of the most significant and complicated figures in the history of Hollywood's public relations. Mae Marsh was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on February 13, 1968, at age 79 from natural causes. The birth of a nation and intolerance star had been one of D.W. Griffith's most trusted performers, and her ability to convey emotional devastation through purely physical expression, making her one of the medium's essential performers during its most experimental decade. Marsh returned to the screen in character roles during the 1940s and 1950s, working regularly for director John Ford, who cast her in small parts across numerous films as a gesture of respect for what she had contributed to the art form. Seena Owen was cremated after she died on August 15, 1966, at age 75 from a stroke in Los Angeles, California. The intolerance actress who played the Princess Beloved in D.W. Griffith's ambitious historical epic wore a gown reportedly woven with real gold thread for the role, a detail that illustrated the extraordinary scale of expenditure Griffith brought to that production. Owen later worked as a screenwriter after her acting career declined, contributing scripts to numerous sound productions and demonstrating an adaptability that the transition to sound tested in nearly every performer who had built their reputation on silent expression. Lupe Velez was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on December 14, 1944, at age 36 from an overdose of sleeping pills, ruled a suicide. The Mexican Spitfire actress had been one of the most vivacious screen personalities of the late silent and early sound era. Her relationships with Gary Cooper and Johnny Weissmuller generating enormous press coverage throughout the 1930s. Velez was 5 months pregnant at the time of her death. She and the circumstances of her passing were reported by the press with a lurid inaccuracy that continued to circulate as fact for decades. Vilma Banky was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, after she died on March 18, 1991, at age 93 from natural causes. The Hungarian actress, who starred opposite Rudolph Valentino in Son of the Sheik and Ronald Colman in several celebrated pairings, had been one of Samuel Goldwyn's most prized players during the mid-1920s. Banky made a graceful exit from films when her Hungarian accent proved impossible for American sound audiences, and she spent the following 6 decades as the wife of actor Rod LaRocque, in a contented private life that many contemporaries who struggled more visibly with the transition openly envied. Corinne Griffith was buried at Rest Haven Memorial Park in Los Angeles, California, after she died on July 13, 1979, at age 85 from natural causes. The actress known as the Orchid Lady of the screen had been one of the most commercially reliable leading ladies of the 1920s, and made a reasonable transition to early sound films before turning her attention to real estate investment and writing. Griffith published several books and spent decades claiming for tax purposes that the Corinne Griffith who appeared in silent films was a different woman, a legal position courts eventually rejected. Dorothy Gish was buried at St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church Cemetery in New York after she died on June 4, 1968, at age 70 from pneumonia. Na, the younger sister of Lillian Gish, had developed a parallel career in silent comedy films, while her sister pursued dramatic work, her gift for physical comedy and expressive mime distinguishing her from the more sentimental style Lillian had made famous. Dorothy had a longer career in stage work than in film, and her theatrical achievements on Broadway were considerable in their own right, though they have been consistently overshadowed in historical memory by the more luminous reputation of her elder sister. Agnes Ayres was buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, California, after she died on December 25, 1940, at age 37, from a cerebral hemorrhage following years of declining health. The actress, who appeared opposite Rudolph Valentino in The Sheik and Son of the Sheik, was unable to transition to sound film and suffered a breakdown in 1927 from which she never fully recovered, spending the following decade in and out of hospitals. Ayres was essentially penniless at the time of her death, another in the long line of silent performers whose transition between eras extracted a cost the industry never acknowledged. Jacqueline Logan was buried at Riverside National Cemetery in Riverside, California, after she died on April 4, 1968, at age 79 from natural causes. The King of Kings actress had played Mary Magdalene in Cecil B. DeMille's 1927 biblical epic, one of the most commercially successful films of the silent era, are in a role that required a combination of sensual screen presence and dramatic range that DeMille had identified in her from their earlier collaborations. Logan retired from acting after the coming of sound and built a successful career in real estate investment in Florida, one of the more quietly prosperous post-Hollywood lives of any performer from her generation. Esther Ralston was buried in Ventura, California, after she died on January 14, 1994, at age 88 from natural causes. The actress known as the American Venus had appeared in the 1924 version of Peter Pan and became one of Paramount's most bankable leading ladies during the mid to late silent era, her wholesome beauty making her a reliable choice for sympathetic heroines. Ralston made a reasonable transition to sound and continued working in smaller roles into that era. Gish ultimately outliving nearly every contemporary from her peak years and giving interviews in her final decade that offered valuable first-hand perspectives on the studio system of the 1920s. Hope Hampton was buried at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, New York, after she died on January 24, 1982, at age 81 from natural causes. The worldly Madonna actress had been promoted in the early 1920s as the next great silent film discovery, her wealthy businessman husband financing several productions in an attempt to build a stardom that never quite materialized. Hampton became a celebrated figure in New York social life after her film career ended, attending opera openings and charity events, with a visibility that kept her name in newspaper society columns for decades after the last of her films had been forgotten. Where the projection rooms emptied and the silence became permanent, 40 women who learned to carry entire worlds in their expressions before sound arrived and changed the terms of everything they had mastered.